Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community, we were to go racing with C-Class Abarths, our first race at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, and my 695 immediately being mugged over two positions off the start line. I get one of them back as the 595 has trouble around turn one, and one of the 131s I don't think it clipped on the curb and spun across the track. Amazingly, everyone gets away without having a big accident. Through all of that, again, the 595 is having some slightly scary sideways moments. I had worked my way back up into second, and as we came into the twisty sections, was immediately on the tail of the leader. The 131 very, very quick down the straights, but it was quite the handful through the corners, sliding up towards this final turn. I would get the pass done again. The rusty car just couldn't get turned. It leaves a wide door for me to drive my car through. However, we are onto the start-finish straight, the longest of the straights, and the rusted car would come flying back past, however, is stuck well on the outside, and the brakes on this 695. I have driven this car before in a versus community, and this is an incredibly good car when it comes to getting slowed down. I can again dive up the inside into the second turn and make the pass stick, and now as we come into the twistier bits, could make that little bit of a gap. Now, it is a brave choice to go with the 595. Yes, it is very light, and yes, it can have a fair bit of power and be monstrously fast in a straight line, and certainly that was the case with this car. However, it is rather little, if there is any contact, it's going to come off worse. Also, they tend not to be the easiest things in the world to drive, as this one was quite quickly finding out. They're just, with the weight distribution and the way the suspension is on them, they are, quite the difficult car. You can get it into good positions. Again, we're trying to get up the inside into the second corner here. However, it can't quite maintain the corners. We can't quite maintain the control in the tiny Abarth, and is again now stuck on the outside. And when everybody is running so close, you get caught out on the outside, and as many cars as possible are going to try and pile their way past, although the red 131 hits the curb on the inside, launches the car up onto two wheels. That is a vicious curb. That is a vicious curb that catches out an awful lot of these Abarths. There was a lot of two-wheeled action going on. Again, we see the 595 can get try to get the power down, gets great acceleration, has a huge moment where, still remaining alongside. That's a huge sort of wobbly, sidewaysy moment. Can get on the power, pretty quickly and get that acceleration, but at the end of the day, it's just a little bit too difficult to drive around this twisty circuit, as was this 131 that was gradually falling back through the field. Yeah, it was very, very quick down the start-finish straight as he would retake the position from the pink car, but just couldn't quite maintain the speed through the corners. The pink car looking to go around the outside of turn one. The second place up ahead had run wide, stipped a wheel in the sand, and that causes all sorts of chaos up towards this second corner. Ends up sort of boxing in the rusted car. That would allow the pink Abarth to go straight round the outside of turn two. That 131 is then trying to move up into second, couldn't quite do it. The rusted car is now under fire from a punter. Again, as I said, as soon as there is a door left open, cars are going to try and find a way past. The white punto doesn't quite get as much on two wheels, and is his turn to be the one forced out wide as the black and red car would spy an opportunity. And once more, these opportunistic passes at Brands Hatch are plentiful. This is not the easiest track in the world to overtake out. There's a big braking zone into turn two, but even then, that's not the longest straight sort of run up to that corner. So, yeah, when the door is left slightly ajar, you've kind of got to go for it. And again, we see the rusted Abarth struggling to get turned through the first corner, just running out wide as the red car slides up the inside into this second corner. The punto is more than happy to have a go as well, and there's another punto coming to join in the fun also. I was out in front, although I wasn't immune, of course, to the horrible curbs. In fact, one of the characteristics I most remember about this 695 was its ability to be on two wheels at almost every single possible time. if you can get away with it, you can actually still make some decent lap speed if you can position it correctly. That time was not correctly for my 695 when I was coming under. Increasing pressure from the 131. Try to make him go the longer way round. The first corner do make him, but he's going to stick alongside. Again, give him just enough room to keep the car there. Don't want to go pushing him out into the sand as we run through the second corner. Of course, the brakes on my 695 are very, very good. I can brake incredibly late. It makes it a very, very tough car to get past, although another big two-wheeled moment would make things a little bit easier. That opens the door for the 131, stick his nose up the inside into this fast chicane. I try to fight it side by side. In the end, I can't quite do it. I don't quite have the speed or the grip of that 131. He would get the pass done as we now run onto the start-finish straight, and he could run away. He could just ever so slightly out-accelerate me, put him out of range by the time we got to the first quarter, so no massive dives from my orange Abarth. Further back, and there was plenty of action pretty much throughout the entire pack in this one. While there wasn't one huge group, there were lots of these little groups fighting over various positions. This was the fight for, I think, about 15th place on the road, so well down the order, but that doesn't matter. When you've got three cars fighting for position, we can see the two cars up ahead were fighting vigorously as well. Yeah, every position was incredibly hard fought over as we go 3 wide down towards the first corner. 2 wide is difficult enough as it is into turn 1 here. The Punto sweeps around the outside of everybody to get the move done, although in doing that he ends up quite wide, is very slow of that first corner. So again we go 3 wide up towards turn 2. It's the 695 through the middle. The 131 is trying desperately to get that pass on the inside to work. Can't quite do it. The Punto has now lost those 2 places he made up. That is incredible driving. As I said, this is fighting over 15th place, and they were 3 wide through 2 consecutive corners. Everyone's swapping sides. In the end, the 131 coming out the best of this group is up ahead. There's a bit of rallycross going on. Yeah, incredible piece of driving from everyone. Now the 695 is almost out wide at the final corner. The Punto not quite able to make the most of that. At the front though, and try as I might, just not quite able to live with the speed of the 131. He would go on to take victory. Not the largest margin of victory, but yeah, I couldn't do much with my 695. I would come home in second place, and that would be the highest finish for a front-wheel drive car. The red and black at 131 in third, and I believe a Punto was up in fourth. So not a bad showing for the front-wheel drive cars. Yeah, just couldn't live with the speed of the Rally Abarth. Race number 2, and we would head to the Lime Rock circuit, and once more front-wheel drive cars would struggle a little bit off of the line. A couple of the sort of rear-wheel drive cars, if you got stuck with a very quick starting car behind one of the front-wheel drive cars, was a little bit infuriating. It was quite easy to get boxed in, as some of us struggled that little bit more to get our cars off of the line. We're almost 3 wide through these opening corners. Quite scary, especially with that blue 131 going incredibly sideways. We do, though, all make it through, even if there is a little bit of rallying. I mean, the 131s were built to be rally cars, so there certainly was a little bit of rallying going on from that one. There's a big slide on the run up the hill. That manages to box in the black car. Gives me an opportunity to try and stay on the outside, and we continue to have many cars squabbling over a very small piece of tarmac. Yeah, as almost 3 wide into the final corner at the end, the white Abarth, I think, moves across a bit too much, bounces his way off the side of somebody, and is across the road. Yeah, 3 cars into that place, not quite so good. I finally end up not being on the outside of somebody. It took me almost a lap to not be on the outside of somebody, but we got there. At the front, of course, a blistering start from that 595. Had got it into the lead and had regained control of it for the opening couple of laps. However, was coming under increasing pressure as he just pushes that car a little bit too hard around the final corner. 595 got plenty of straight line speed, but yeah, compromising your run under the stripe by that much is just not quite going to be able to fend off. And then we come to these long opening corners, the sort of corner that the 595 is probably not a massive fan of back there, as he's now under threat from a couple of the 695s. Yeah, difficult track there. He's lost a position to one and almost loses it to another. Further back, and the squabbling was still very much on. While at the front, things would spread out quite quickly. It was further back where most of the excitement was going on. The Rusted Abarth was having trouble once more with these long corners. Yeah, if you do not have the grip of some of the other cars, and you know, yeah, they are C-class cars. They're not the most powerful. They're certainly, some of these are not the fastest in a straight line, but you can get some pretty damn decent handling cars out of these. Yeah, and if you don't have the grip through that opening section, you are going to be a sitting duck as this blue and black, or blue and silver punto, I should say, moves up a position. The 595 was doing his best to try and cling on to some of the higher spots, but would be increasingly under pressure from various vehicles. A punto would drive straight around the outside of him. Again, he's just struggling for that composure, struggling to carry the speed. Lime Rock is a very tough track, much tougher than Brands Hatch, I think, to overtake around here as the 595 gets a really big slide. One of the risks with the suspension of the car when it when you go over crests, if you unload one of the front wheels, can have a very big slide. Yeah, this is a tough track, a very tough track to overtake at, because there is little in the way of braking zones, although when you clip a curb a bit too hard and have a big slide towards a tyre bundle, it does make life a little bit more easy for the swarm of puntos that are trying to get past you. Although the black punto may have got a little bit excited, couldn't quite get the car stopped into the next corner, took a trip across the grass, and then would lose a place in all of that. Up ahead, there was some more dust flying as, yeah, you found it quite easy. Certainly with the front-wheel drive cars, you weren't quite ready for the understeer. You want to be flat out around that final turn, and certainly quite a few cars were, but it was one of those very much on the limits of being flat out. I took a couple of tours across the grass in this one. Towards the front of the field, and the 695 was desperately trying to cling on to the second place, although once more finding himself under attack, and a wheel on the grass into the final corner is not really the way that you want to go. Again, a really easy mistake to make here at Lime Rock. When you're stuck on that outside line, you just leave it a little bit too late to turn in. You've got that rear wheel caught on the grass, and it's going to spin your car. Now, in a front-wheel drive car, you can boot it, and your car will straighten up, although you're going to lose a lot of time. You can see the gap the pink car has made up, and this 695 is now very much under threat from the punto. However, at the front, it would be black and red, a 131 that would go on to claim a victory. It'd be a 131, 1-2. There's a lot of numbers in this one. I apologise. That's just how Abarth named their cars. And while the punto would be the highest placed front-wheel drive car. Unfortunately for me, I got in a wrecker car ahead of me, crashed a tyre bundle, and stopped in the road directly ahead of me while I was at full speed and couldn't really avoid it. A shame, because Lime Rock was perhaps the track I stood the most chance of being competitive. Certainly after I pitted, had some very quick laps that could have been an interesting fight between me and those 131s, but alas, that is the way racing goes sometime. Our final race, we would head to the Sebring Club Circuit. A little bit of a bumpy turn one for a few of the cars. The 595, a little bit happier around this circuit. While there are still some nasty corners for it to worry about, there are also some much longer straights out here, as the Rusted 131 would lead the way. The tiniest of Abarths was busy trying to regain control of the car. You can see how much time he loses through just a couple of corners. Further back, again, it would be the lower end of the top 10. The most excitement would be going on once more. The front pack would quite quickly, actually, spread out. This lot were, as you can imagine, squabbling for every possible position. A couple of the cars at the front of this group got a little bit of a tangle in the braking zone. That would allow the pink and blue cars to make up a couple of relatively easy positions, although as everyone tries to filter back in, now we've now got 4 cars vying for a very similar piece of tarmac, and that is where things often go a little bit wrong. Turquoise punto giving the pink a little bit of a bump in the brakes, a little bit of a hurry up really through there, although in doing that you get stuck out wide and more cars are going to attack. I was up into 5th place and trying to claim 4th, fighting against a black punto. and it is a long way to go around the outside. However, I managed to keep it there as we head up to the final corner. The 695 just having enough grip, and I have just about enough bravery to pull off the manoeuvre and make it stick, although I knew I had to be wary. You can see both of us moving to the inside. I go as defensive as I possibly can. The Punto had some pretty damn good straight line speed on it, so I knew I had to defend into turn 1. You've got to be careful across that turn 1 curb, as you had a big two-wheeled moment. Managed to get the car back down on the ground, still having my 695 wibbling around in the air, just about keep it under control. Now I'm happy to go on the outside for this corner. It might look like a bit of a peculiar maneuver, but it means that you're on the inside for the more important of turns. This is one of the best overtaking spots on the track outside of turn 1. It's a big braking zone, and if I can keep my car on the inside with the superior brakes and fantastic handling of my 695, I could just about fend off the Punto behind, and then, you know, I fend him off, I can compromise him, so if I do make a mistake, like there, end up out a little bit wide, he's just not quite close enough to have a go. This group were still very much at it, as whenever I look through a replay, yeah, there was something always going on around here, as we're now trying to fit 3 cars into the final corner. The pink Abarth gets a big slide. I don't know whether that was curb assisted or a slight bump assisted, one or the other, around that area. But now nose to tail coming on to the start-finish straight. This is all about that straight line speed down towards the first corner, and the 695 actually got a pretty good launch over the final turn. Is coming to try and have a look. But again, it's a long way around the outside of turn 1. It can be done, but you've got to have some serious grip in your car to get that move done. And the 695 is good, and it is clearly the faster car in this group, but couldn't quite make it work. And of course, when you try that outside pass, you try to go the long way around. If you don't get the overtake done, you're going to lose time, and now you're too far back for the next corner. Up ahead, turquoise and blue car were having a fight, and as one gets stuck out wide, the pink car tries to capitalise. Much as we've seen, and certainly with the lower classes of car, when you're all running very close together like this with relatively balanced vehicles, whenever there is that opportunity, you've got to really try and seize it. And yeah, someone getting an overtake done on a car tends to leave them in an awkward position, and that is when you can strike. Our little battle was becoming quite isolated in this race, but I was still having to fend off a Punto for most of the time, and I was still spending a lot of my time up on 2 wheels. I'm pretty sure my 695 wants to be a motorbike, but try as I might, I was just about keeping control. The Punto actually gets a really good run. Last minute, he jinks to the inside, or to the outside of the fast corner, to the inside for the next breaker zone. This was the best chance the Punto had this race so far. He does get it alongside, but he doesn't quite have the grip to finish off the manoeuvre once more. I can hold my car. He also was quite generous in giving me plenty of space, took quite a tight line, and that made him a little bit slow off the corner. Again, I'm pushing my luck, running wide. But the Punto, having gone for that overtake, being that bit compromised, was too far back. Once more, I can force him to go the long way around, and you're not going to find too much space out there when you've just not got the grip to fight it around the outside of my Abarth. Further back, and Punto was trying to make its way through the field from a less than ideal start. He was trying to do the outside manoeuvre on a 695 a little bit more successfully. If you can just get that overlap as you run out of that corner, you can dive it up the inside into the final turn. You saw me do it, but couldn't quite get it done in the Punto, and then trying to push it around that final corner. Runs a little bit out on the dirt, and we're going to get another opportunistic overtake. There's so many of them going on with these cars, as the 131 would outdrag the Punto, although very even down towards the first corner. The 695 is early on the brakes, and they're both going to try and get past the front-wheel drive. It's quite a scary manoeuvre doing that one, diving either side of a car. Yeah, 695 is way too early on the brakes. I think the braking boards may have got knocked down into the first corner, whether it's showing up on the replays or not. The replays are always funky on here. But yeah, they do get knocked down at some point, and when you've lost them, if you've been using them, which a lot of people will be, quite easy to get yourself into a little bit of bother. That could quite easily explain 695 being so early on the brakes, and the Punto, well, having gained a position, has lost a position, and is now looking at the back of at least a slightly different car. That's something. And we are back to this group. They've reshuffled a little bit. I think the pink car might have fallen off the tail of the group. However, they were still going at it, with the blue 131 having a look down the start-finish straight. But again, the 695 is wise to it. It's just going to cover that inside line. We saw the white 695 trying to go the long way around into turn one, it not working. In fact, the car up ahead was again a little bit too early on the brakes. That would give the white vehicle an opportunity to pounce up the inside. I think with the braking boards gone, it was making braking tougher into turn one and making overtaking that little bit easier. It's just a little bit more uncertainty going on, although much easier to make a mistake. And you see how that one sort of small error from the white and blue 695 very nearly cost him 2 places. The blue Abarth not quite able to fully get his car alongside. Actually helps the white 695 out, just being able to run away that little bit while the other two busy distracting at the front, and things were tightening up towards the end of the race. It was the rusted 131 and the 595 that were blazing away at the front of the field. Both of them running very, very close together. The 595 trying to look for a way past, and perhaps the slightly quicker of the 2 cars. The problem was, he was even more of a handful through the corners than the rusted vehicle, and all the 131 had to do was park the car on the inside, and the 595 just couldn't effect a pass. He couldn't find a way around, and once more we see he had to go into the first corner. He was on the outside, but was compromised, was slow through that first corner, and would lose a lot of margin, would make it back up again, but it might take him a lap or two to make that happen. Again, as the race was coming into its closing stages, some of the crazy groups would get a little bit more dispersed. The pink 131 would find another battle to take part in, as he was now trying to fend off against a punto at a silver 695. We run down the back straight. The 131 has definitely got the straight line speed of the group, as the punto was coming under immediate threat, although just about pulls the car up in time. Little too late on the brakes down there, trying to defend a pretty much textbook cutback from the 695 to get that position. Yeah, very, very good pass from the silver car at the front though, and it would be the 131 that would go on to take a victory. 595 threw everything at it that he could, but just could not effect a pass. Once more though, there would be 2 131s on the podium. Victory in 3rd place would go to them. I would once more finish highest of the front-wheel drive cars in 4th, fending off the punto across the line. Yeah, not the greatest track really for my car. Certainly the 2 most powerful cars were very, very good around Sebring, although you've got to try and keep control of them, and they are not necessarily the easiest of things to be driving. Had a lot of fun, actually, with the Abarths. Yes, 131s did take victory, were perhaps the best of cars for this. I would say I know my 695 should have fared a lot better around Lime Rock. At Sebring, I just did not have the speed. Certainly, a couple of puntos and a couple of 695s were very competitive and were keeping the 131s quite honest. It was good fun as ever. The lower class racing, these sort of cars, light, plenty of grip, not massive amounts of power. Well, most of them not massive amounts of power. Make for, as ever, incredibly excellent fun, and mostly opportunistic overtakes today. However, that is going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.